All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike, as always, and today we're going to do an early breakdown for UFC 260. Oh, my goodness. UFC Vegas 67. So this card isn't until next week, but I wanted to put out something early just because I already had the tape done, got my notes ready, and there's already odds out. So why not? Next week, I'll be going live on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time with my guy Pat from Addicted to Combat. We're going to be doing this card again, but together it's going to be a bit longer. I'm planning on a shorter breakdown today, hopefully. Let's see how that plays out. I also just announced today, next week, Thursday as well, I'm starting a weekly Twitter Spaces with my guy MMA Propaholic. We're going to be doing a Twitter Space every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, where we discuss props. It's going to be really dope. Never hosted Twitter Spaces before, so I am looking forward. Great co-host with Propaholic, so that should be great. And let's hop right into this card. I've got a few bets already made. I don't think I'm going to be playing any other money lines. We'll see about props once they start dropping. I'll be refreshing the best fight odds page as we go through this stream, and hopefully maybe some odds will pull up. Right now, we only have what Five Dimes is offering, so it's nothing most of us could play, but it can give us some reference points while we break this down. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight. And for this one, we've got Mateusz Rebecki versus Nick Fiore. Rebecki is 16, 1-0. He's 30 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, and I've got him training out of American Top Team. On the other side, you've got Fiore. He's 6-0, undefeated as a pro. 25 years old. He's 5'11", so he's going to be 4 inches taller here. I don't have a reach for him, but he is training out of the New England Cartel. That's where Calvin Kattar is. That's where Rob Font is. So good camp for striking particularly. They don't have many lightweights that I know of, but still a good camp. My guy Giallo in the chat, first time tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in, brother. I appreciate it big time. Hopefully I can help you out a bit. So for this fight, I mean, look, the odds are the way they are for a reason. It's minus 600 Rebecki. And it makes sense. Nick Fiore hasn't fought anyone good at all. He's got 2 back-to-back fights against the legendary Jay Ellis, a guy with over 100 losses. And it's just not a great look. He hasn't fought anybody good. When he does fight, honestly, like everything I say, you have to take it with a grain of salt here. There's one available video of Nick Fiore. It is the Jay Ellis fight, and, he dominates. He does take Jay Ellis down, and he beats him pretty quickly. But first of all, on the feet, it was Jay Ellis landing better shots, which is not a good look. And second of all, we don't know how this wrestling is going to translate. Rebecki, on the other side, he's fought good competition. Maybe not the best, and he also was out for a while before his Contender Series fight. He had like one other fight, and then he was very inactive. So there's not a tremendous amount of recent tape on Mateusz Rebecki as well. But he's a decent striker, but better than Fiore from what I can tell. And I do think he's going to be a significantly better grappler. I think he's going to dominate this fight. I do. I think he's probably going to finish Nick Fiore. If this was something like minus 350, I probably would have max bet it. At minus 600, I don't want to do that. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to wait for the inside the distance prop, and then I'll probably play that even at chalk. We don't have that right now, not even on 5 Dimes, so I don't know what it's going to look like. But I don't see a path for Nick. Again, I'm working with very little tape, so who knows? Nick can come out here and look like a stud. He is training at New England Cartel, so maybe his striking is going to look better. Rebecki isn't the best striker, but I think the grappling of Mateusz Rebecki is going to be what wins in this fight. I think it's going to be inside the distance, and I think it's going to be quick. Nick Fiore has never been outside of the first round. And I just think that Rebecki's going to find the finish here, probably early, but let's see what happens. My guy 6hound also saying he's tuning in for the first time. Thank you for tuning in, brother. I appreciate it big time. Really appreciate all of you guys. Couldn't be here without you, so thank you all for tuning in. And we're going to move on to this next fight. For this one, I don't know what to make of this one. We don't even have a line yet, so I'm going to have to kind of do some guesswork, but we've got Priscila Cachoeira versus Sijara Eubanks. Priscila is 12-4-0. She's 34 years old, 5'7" with a 65-inch reach, and she is training out of MMA Masters. Sijara is 7-7-0, 37 years old, 5'4", so she's given up 3 inches in height, 67-inch reach. She's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and I honestly could not figure out her camp. I really tried. I do my Instagram stalking when I want to find camps, but I wasn't able to find anything for Sijara Eubanks of where she's training. That said, to me, this fight is very binary. If Sijara Eubanks can get her wrestling off, I think it's her fight. If Priscila can keep this on the feet for enough, I think it's her fight to win. I do think Sijara will get her down. I'm fairly confident that she'll get her down at least 2-3 times. My question is she going to be able to hold her down? And is she going to tire her out? Because we did see her tire her out in the Melissa Gatto fight. I'll put an asterisk there because I think very highly of Melissa Gatto. I think she's a future contender. I think she's really good. So I'm not going to say too much bad stuff about that loss from Sijara, but the cardio is the thing there because she tired out. She was winning against Gatto in the first round, and then she got tired and she got finished. Priscilla's already shown she can do exactly that. She can get out grappled by Gina Mazzani. She can survive, and then she can find that finish. Now, Sijara Eubanks, in terms of getting knocked out, she's been knocked out 1 time. Cachoeira has never been knocked out herself. She's got 7 knockout wins, and she's shown us time and time again. She's got big power. My guy, CT710, thank you for tuning in, brother, saying Priscila looked good last time, and I certainly agree. Against Ariane Carnelossi, she did look good. And I would say even in the – I'm blanking on the woman's name. In the fight before that, I'm going to pull it up real quick. Ji-yeon Kim, in that fight, even then, I know a lot of people felt Ji-yeon Kim won. I had Ji-yeon Kim there as well. I also thought she won. But Priscila looked good. Her striking is very solid. She's got good combinations. She's got this big power, but she's not – she does load up. She does. Cormier pointed this out during one of the fights. She does kind of load up that hand. You can even see it. But when she's in her flow, she looks good. She's not loading up. She's quick. She's down the pipe. And I think she's going to be the better striker here. So, again, it's binary to me. It comes down to who's going to get their game going. I lean Sijara Eubanks. Am I going to play this? Probably not at all. I do think I see the path for Cachoeira, clearly. I mean, look at the Tapology predictions. They're feeling Priscila. We're going to have to see. If the odds are close to evens, I'm going to sit this fight out. If Sijara is a big underdog, I'll certainly play her because I do think she wins. But for the most part, I don't really want anything to do with this fight. It should be exciting. Zombie Girls fights are always exciting, but not really a fight I want to put my money on. So we're going to move on to this next one. All right, Battle of the Prospects. Someone's O has got to go. We've got Mateus Mendonca. All right, hold on, guys. If you've ever watched my shows, I move around nonstop. I just can't help it. OCD, whatever you want to call it. But sorry, I just keep moving. But for this fight, we've got Mateus Mendonca versus Javid Basharat. Mendonca is 10-0, undefeated as a pro. He's 23 years old, 5'6" with a 72-inch reach, training out of Shoot Box. On the other side, we've got Javid Basharat, 13-0, undefeated as a pro, 27 years old. He's 5'9", so he's got a 3-inch height advantage, 69-inch reach, so he's given up 3 inches in reach, and he is training out of Extreme Couture. So my guy CT710 over here is kind of echoing my thoughts. I do think that, I do think that Mendonca is a really good fighter. I do think that Javid Basharat probably wins this fight, but minus 350, I agree, is nuts. So let's talk about this. On the Javid Basharat side, we know what we have already. We have a guy who's a clear prospect, who's young, who's arguably still green, which is, by green, I mean experience-wise. Technique-wise, he's not green. He's very good. Look at the Gravely fight. I mean, that was a really, really, really good showing. He showed that, A, he can defend takedowns from a high-level wrestler. B, he can get his own takedowns against a high-level wrestler. C, he could scramble from bottom position really well against a high-level wrestler. D, he can outstrike UFC level guys. He did that against Gravely. He did that against Jones. He did that in his Contender Series fight against the Contender Series fight. That was not a UFC caliber guy. Guys trash both inside and out. But I would say that Javid has shown he's a very, very good fighter. On the other side, Mateus Mendonca, he's actually also a prospect. Like, I feel like he's going to be someone, maybe not top 5, maybe not top 10, but someone who's going to be around in this bantamweight division for quite a while. He is a BJJ black belt. He's training out of shoot box, and you can see that style on him. He's got that shoot box Muay Thai style. He's got a nice jab, a nice 1-2. He does look kind of almost slow motion sometimes, and he does leave himself open. I don't love the defense. Even in his regional fights, he was fighting a guy who I think was like, it was some really like, I'm blank. Journeyman. It was a journeyman guy who was actually landing on him way more than I'm comfortable with, considering he's fighting Javid Basharat. His own wrestling is pretty good. He could wrestle. Nice double legs. He's tough on top. He does have 4 submission wins. It's just that I feel like he's very hittable. I feel like he's very, very hittable. And I feel like the way that he strikes, he leaves himself for counters. And what does Javid Basharat do very, very well? Counters really well. He can start a little bit slow. I don't love that. But his striking is just so fluid. The kicks, like nice front kicks, nice knees, good body kicks. And then in terms of the hands, I would like a little bit more. But once he's flowing, he's flowing. Amazing jab. Nice combos. Great 1-2s. I mean, Javid, he's an absolute stud. How could Mendonca win this fight? It's hard to tell. We haven't seen him against good competition. His Contender Series fight lasted under a minute against a guy that, I taped that fight. I did cover Contender Series when it was happening this past year. And I did think Mendonca was going to destroy that guy. And he did. He did exactly what I expected him to do. But neither that guy or his regional opponents were anything like Javid. So while I would have loved to take a shot on Mendonca, because I do think he's not a contender, a future prospect or a current prospect, I don't want to do it here against Javid. Now, in terms of making any bets, I'm not going to be parlaying Javid because I do respect Mendonca as a prospect, but I will be looking at Javid inside the distance. I'm going to be looking at Javid by KO because while Javid does have submissions on his record, he's got 6 of them, and he does have a good ground game. I do think that a guy like Mendonca could stifle that. He does have a black belt. He is training out of shoot box. The KO, that's what I think is going to be interesting. I think we're going to get a good price on it. And I think that Javid is going to get a lot of opportunities to counter Mateus Mendonca. And because of that, that's the prop I'm going to look at. If inside the distance is a good price, I'll probably play that too. But Javid by KO, Javid inside the distance. And the only other play I would look at is fight doesn't go the distance. Both of these guys have a bunch of finishes on their records. 5 knockouts for Basharat, 6 submission wins for Basharat, 3 knockout wins for Mendonca, 4 sub wins for Mendonca. Neither man's ever been finished. So maybe that's why the line, at least on 5 dimes, seems kind of off, at least to me. But I do think we're going to get a finish here. The fight doesn't go on 5 dimes is minus 135. If we get that line of widely available, if it opens at that price, I'm going to play that. I do think that this fight ends inside the distance. I think more than likely it's going to be Javid Basharat, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mendonca found a way here. I don't think this is the fight for him, but I also don't want to play this line. This is going to be a repeating theme tonight. There's a lot of fights where I do think one guy is the clear favorite, but I think that the line is still just off and unplayable. Real quick, I want to catch up to the chat. My guy, 6hound, also I think he's new to the chat. Oh, yeah, we went over this already. Is a huge break allowing everyone to do extensive research the reason for juiced AF lines? I don't necessarily think so. I think always, every week, people are prepared for these lines. And I do think that the people who are normally betting these down are the same people every week. So Do I think the break is the reason for the juice? No, I think that it's just some of these matchups, people feel very confident in the favorite. And, it's wide, but it does make sense. I think that's the explanation. My guy Strickland's Burner saying hello. Hello to you, my friend. Glenbot, sup, man. Sup to you. Happy New Year to you as well. And fight doesn't go the distance. I'm glad you're seeing it like I am. Javid's 2-2 fights went to decision. Exactly the downside of maybe betting fight doesn't go, and the fact that neither of these men have been finished. But I just think we're going to see violence here. Again, shoot box for Mendonca. We've seen guys like Daniel Willie Cat Santos, right? They come out wild. They come out with this Muay Thai style. And Basharat is just a finisher, and I do think he's going to find a counter here. I do think he'll find a KO. So no bet right now. Javid Basharat by KO is the prop I'll be looking for, and we're going to move on and stop beating a dead horse. That's a -3 something favorite. My guy Prince of Mischief in the chat. What's up to you, my guy? Thank you for tuning in as well. We've got 19 live viewers right now. It's a good number for us over here at the Couch Warrior podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you, and we're going to keep moving along. So for this fight here, I really did think I'd have a bet. I did, but this fucking chair, man. I hate this chair. I need a new chair. But I did think I'd have a bet on this fight, but I ended up just staying. I think I'm going to stay off. We've got Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribeiro. Alhassan, 11-5-0, 37 years old. It's a bad thing. 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. And he's training. I actually don't know for sure about his camp. I do believe he's training out of Fortis MMA, but I cannot confirm or deny that, at least based off of his Instagram page. So we're going to have to go with Fortis. Ribeiro on the other side, he's 10-2-0, 30 years old. He's 7 years younger, 6'1". He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 77-inch reach. So he's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and he is training out of Brazilian Black Thigh. That I could confirm. And look, so Ribeiro, he fought in the Contender Series, and he fought against this guy, Ivan Valenzuela. I did think that Ivan was going to murk him. I did. Now, he got a knockout. He got the knockout early. But how? He got it off of a spinning attack. Ivan went for the spinning, whatever it was, I think a spinning back fist that was not good, completely opened himself up for counters, and Claudio Ribeiro, rightfully so, clocked him and knocked him out. In this fight before that, though, I think that's where we have to look, because the Contender Series is great and all, but it doesn't tell you everything. You look at the fight before that. Ribeiro on the regional scene in Brazil fought a 40-year-old man. He went almost 5 rounds. The 40-year-old man was 24-0. That was his record. And that 40-year-old man took him down quite a few times, found some control time. We're talking about a guy who is a regional journeyman of regional journeymen, and he was taking Claudio Ribeiro down. Now, Claudio does not have this good takedown defense. In terms of his striking, it gets very loopy. Big power, that's very clear, but the strikes themselves are very loopy, and he gets very wild with them. He is good at countering in the pocket in particular. He does look pretty good, but he's just those loopy strikes are why I think Abdul Razak Alhassan will probably find that chin, because I think that while he also wings his strikes and while he also loads up, I think that he's going to be throwing a bit more straight. So I do think he's more likely to find that chin. Now, in terms of the grappling, I just mentioned how Ribeiro was getting taken down by a 40-year-old, right? Abdul Razak Alhassan is no wrestler. He's not a guy out here who's wrestling every fight. But in his last fight against Buckley, he did show that he can adjust. He can wrestle. And it doesn't necessarily exhaust him. He won the third round against Buckley, something that probably 99% of bettors would have bet against. He did it. So this is why I wanted to bring up a few comments. So first, real quick, CT 710 saying, no way goes the distance. It shouldn't. The odds are going to be blown up for fight doesn't go. But I'm kind of tempted. I'm kind of tempted on either playing fight goes the distance or Abdul by decision. And I'll explain why. Because while, yes, both guys are extremely hittable, both guys are sloppy, both guys are looking for that knockout, Ribeiro has gone up to the 4th round against a guy that is way less good than Abdul Razak Alhassan, and he didn't knock him out. So is it impossible that he doesn't knock out Alhassan? No, I don't think it's impossible. So I'm low key thinking that maybe the overs, the fight goes are the way to go here, just because I think that's where the value is going to be. Everyone and their mom thinks this fight doesn't go, and that's what logic dictates. But how many times have we seen this? Chris Curtis, Rodolfo Vieira. I hit that one. Plus 375 to go the distance. It's hard for me to explain, I guess, but I just feel like because of that grappling problem of Ribeiro, right? That's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm thinking on the feet, we're dealing with 2 guys who are power strikers and who are sloppy, right? So a round 1 KO is what seems most realistic. But now let's mix in Ribeiro's bad takedown defense and Alhassan being able to get his wrestling going sometimes. Is it impossible that we get a decision? I don't think it's impossible. I don't. Make sure you're, if you're not following me at Couch Warrior Pod, make sure you're at least checking before you tail me here. I haven't done a thing with this fight yet. I don't know if I will at all. My guy Mountain Bets over here saying the over 1.5. I think that's where maybe my brain's going to be, because I think we're going to get that at a good plus money. And I think that, rather than playing fight goes to decision and sweating the entire fight, maybe it's better to bet the over 1.5, sweat for 7.5 minutes, and then either cash my ticket or admit that it lost. So I do think that it's possible this extends. Glenbot, if Abdul gets to decision, he loses. Most of the time, yeah. But first of all, a lot of people felt he beat Buckley. I had Buckley, so I'm not going to argue. And second, it's not like Ribeiro's out here winning a ton of decisions either, Like, even against that 40-year-old guy, like, he wasn't necessarily winning that fight. Like, I'd be curious who won that fight if they went to decision. Abdul has judo, not wrestling. That's fair, but he has gotten a wrestling takedown, I'm pretty sure. Like, unless I'm tripping, I'm pretty sure I've seen him do a double. I know judo that we've seen, but I won't argue too much because I don't remember. So we'll move on, but I don't like a side here, even though I think Alhassan probably gets a KO. And then in terms of unders, overs, props, probably going to look at the over 1.5 and call it a day. And we're going to move on to the next fight. So I got quite a bit of shit for this one. And look, I get it. I get why I got crap for this one. But I just think that once again, we're seeing something special. And I think that people are rightfully so trying to fade it. But I think it's going to be just a waste of money. When Khabib was making his come up, how many times did he get faded by a lot of people who were thinking, look, he hasn't faced this and this. Now he's facing this and this. I really think that here, look, Raoni Barcelos is certainly the better striker. What I don't like about the Nurmagomedovs, what I don't like about that camp in general, is his tendency for kicks. They've been doing a lot of kicks recently, not a lot of strikes with their hands, and I don't love that. I'm not a big fan of that. The kicks do look really good. You have DC and Joe Rogan yelling about how they're the most dynamic kicks in the game. I don't share that opinion. I think his kicking game is very good. His hands are good when he uses them, but I think there's a problem with Umar in that he's not throwing enough hands. Raoni Barcelos has shown, even though technically his background is wrestling, he was this Brazilian national champion, whatnot, his striking is very good. He's a very good boxer. And when he's losing, he's losing via output, not wrestling. He hasn't lost fights via wrestling. I just think that at the end of the day, yes, he's fought a Nurmagomedov before, but Saeed is not, first of all, he's not related. Second of all, he's not the same. The striking is very similar, but the grappling is not comparable. Umar Nurmagomedov is an incredible grappler. And I think that he's going to give Raoni Barcelos and his 93% takedown defense something that they have not seen yet. I did max play Umar. I got him at minus 350. That's not the opener. He actually opened much closer. I think it was like minus 200 or so. I woke up late that day, so I got minus 350, played it for 10 units. I think that we're about to see some shit. And I think we're about to look at this and be like, all right, Umar is legit. Umar is 1 or 2 fights from a title. Umar can challenge Sterling. I think that's what this fight is going to tell us. And because of that, I am backing Umar. If this fight is extended on the feet, Barcelos will probably have his moments. Barcelos will probably make it close. I just really feel that the wrestling is going to be enough to get this fight done. So I am going to be playing Umar. My guy Mountain here, thinking a lot like I am. No value in the over 1.5. Decision is minus 230 already. Yeah, that's what I would have thought. Because while I do think super highly of Umar, I also think very highly of Raoni Barcelos. And I recognize that finishing him would be very difficult. How would Umar do it? Would Umar knock him out? I don't think so. Would Umar submit Raoni Barcelos? I don't think so. So realistically, I think it's probably Umar by decision. Maybe if you didn't want to play Umar money line, especially now that he's minus 505, you could look at the decision prop. We don't have it widely available. On 5 dimes, it's minus 135, which I actually think is a pretty good price. If I wasn't already 10 units deep on Umar, that is probably the way I'd look at it, would be the decision, because I do think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going to do it dominantly. I think he's going to prove some shit, but I don't think he's going to get a finish. So I like Umar by decision, but my bet is just him money line. I max bet that. I don't condone the minus 500. Minus 350 isn't much better, but at minus 500, it's getting very hard to really make anything off of it. So I personally wouldn't, but I do think Umar dominates. And we're going to move on to the next fight. All right. So for this next one, this one is really interesting to me, at least. We've got Daniel Argueta versus Isaac Dulgarian. Argueta is 8-1-0, 29 years old. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, and he is trading out of Jackson Wink MMA. Is that true? Actually, I don't have confirmation on that. So if anybody in the comments knows, let me know. On the other side, you've got Dulgarian, 5-0, undefeated as a pro, 26 years old. He's 3 years younger here, 5'7". They're the same height. We don't have a reach for him. And in terms of his gym, he's out of Glory MMA normally. Now with all of this James Krause drama, I don't know if he's still there or not. Sorry, I'm just playing with my mic a little bit, but I don't know if he's still under James. I mean, obviously he's not under James Krause, but I don't know if he's still at Glory. Obviously, he probably had to move because of the new rules that they put out, but I don't know where he moved. I can't tell from his Instagram, so I can't tell you guys that. Now, my guy CT saying values on Isaac, in my opinion, and I'll be honest, I fully agree. I just don't think you can play it anyways because there's just not enough. There's not enough information. Dulgarian has never gone past the 3-minute mark as a pro or as an amateur. Never. We're talking about, what is it? I got to look it up. So as a pro, he's 5-0. As an amateur, he went 4-0. Never left the 3-minute mark. Forget the first round. He never left the 3-minute mark. Now, another thing I want to note. Dulgarian, all of his fights, every single one of his fights except one, was under the promotion FAC. Who owns FAC? James motherfucking Krause. So take that from what you may, for what you may. But we've seen guys like David Onama come out from that promotion. We've seen other guys. It's a James Krause promotion. It's pretty easy to assume that he's probably setting up his guys. Now, here's where I think this is interesting. The competition edge clearly goes to Argueta. The experience edge, without a doubt, goes to Daniel Argueta. You can watch Dulgarian's entire MMA career in just over 16 minutes. Now, CT, reading my damn mind. This is something that we do know. Dulgarian, he's actually the more credentialed wrestler here. Both guys did wrestle before MMA. Daniel Argueta, I can't confirm or deny whether he wrestled in college. I do know that he wrestled in high school, but I don't even think he won states. On the side of Dulgarian, he did wrestle in college. Nothing too crazy in terms of credentials, but he is more experienced in the wrestling department in terms of just I guess the experience level is what I meant, the competition level. How this is going to play out in MMA, the wrestling differences, I don't know. It's almost impossible for me to tell because of this lack of info. Dan Argueta, we had him against Damon Jackson. In that fight, Damon Jackson got him down a lot, but that was up a weight class, right? That was at 145. Damon Jackson was much bigger. That's not the case with Isaac Dulgarian. Mountain Bet saying Argueta did wrestle in college. Brother, do you know what college it was? That would help me. Thank you, though. Thank you, though, for that. I love when you guys talk to me. I love when you guys help me out. My favorite thing is when the chat's talking to me. Interactions with you guys is my favorite thing. So always feel free to let me know, and that is super helpful. So Parkside D2, that does help. I don't remember whether Dulgarian was D1 or D2. I don't think he was D1, but regardless, both guys, and long story short, both guys have really good wrestling. Unfortunately, I don't know the wrestling scene all that much, so I'm just doing my best. I wrestled in high school, and I didn't wrestle after that. Mountain Bet's confirming for me that Dulgarian is also D2. People who do know about wrestling, Andrew Gombis, definitely. If you want to know wrestling-wise, go to him. Liam Picks Fights also follows wrestling, I believe. But Mountain Bet's kind of confirming what I was mentioning, that Dulgarian did do better at the D2 level than Argueta did. Regardless, that was all pre-MMA. In terms of MMA, Isaac Dulgarian, I don't know what to make of his striking. His jab looks good, but he almost goes straight to the grappling every single fight. So there's not much info there for me to work with in terms of how he strikes. Argueta, he's a good striker. He's a southpaw, so that's good. But he mostly uses the striking to close the distance, and the way he strikes, he's just so hittable. And it's not just in the fight against Damon Jackson where he showed 39% striking defense. In the fight before that against Silva in LFA, which a lot of people felt he lost, he was getting hit a lot. Not only did he get hit, he got taken down. So sorry, I just bit my tongue. Here's the thing. I think that Dulgarian is the side, but I cannot bet it without seeing him go longer against tougher guys. I just cannot do it. I would bet Dan Argueta because I think that because there's this lack of past first round experience for Isaac, I think that we might see a cardio dump. It's also his UFC debut, whereas Argueta has already gotten that out of the way. So I do think that Argueta will probably win by decision. I think it'll happen by Dulgarian slowing down, particularly. Maybe even Argueta a late finish. What I would have liked to play would have been Dulgarian. I really would have, because Argueta, even against guys like Silva, was getting taken down. So I do think Dulgarian can get him down. But because I don't know what his striking is going to look like, and because I don't know how his cardio will look like, I can't bet him as a dog. And because of those things, I'm also not willing to bet Argueta either. So I'm going to be staying off of this fight. It's a pass for me. In terms of props, honestly, I don't even want to know. I don't really care. Fight goes to decision is plus 105. I think that's probably what happens. But it's difficult to bet that when you consider that Dulgarian doesn't leave the first round. What's going to happen when we get to round 2, round 3, where Argueta is stuffing his shots, making it hard for him to get those takedowns? Will he be able to compete? I'm not convinced. Mountain Bet's saying these are the spots I think you have to take, potentially a great discount. Seeing the guys he trains with, I feel like he's got this one. Well, first of all, in terms of the training thing, he was at Glory, but we don't know where he is now. The entire camp is in absolute chaos after what happened with James Krause. And again, like I mentioned, my biggest issue with betting him as the dog is just a lack of information. I don't know how he'll look after round one, and I don't know how he's going to look in the striking. So my prediction is Dan Argueta by decision. My bet is nothing, and I am not going to be betting this fight. And we're going to move on to a fight that I already do have a bet on. For this one, we've got Ketlen Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. Vieira is 13-2-0, 31 years old. She's 5'8", with a 68-inch reach, and I do have her training out of Nova União. Pennington on the other side, she's 14-8-0, 34 years old. She's 5'7" with a 68-inch reach, so she's 1 inch shorter, and they've got the same reach. She is training out of Altitude MMA as far as I know. If anybody knows better, feel free to let me know as usual. And look, I think that Vieira is probably going to win this fight. For me, this comes down to this. Pennington finds a ton of success in the clinch. Sorry. But that's also where she has been, where she's found some, sorry, I'm like stumbling on my words. That's also where she's lost a little bit. While she does win fights in the clinch against the fence, that's also where she loses a lot of fights, where she loses a lot of minutes at least. I think that Ketlen is going to be able to out-muscle Pennington. Both women look for those clinch positions. And if that's what we're dealing with, I'm going to side with the woman who's bigger and stronger, who I think it's Ketlen Vieira. Now, Holly Holm did indeed hold Ketlen against the fence a lot, something that Pennington would do as well. But in my personal opinion, Holly Holm is bigger and stronger than Raquel Pennington. I mean, in terms of factually, she is bigger. In terms of strength, it's just my opinion, but that's what I think. I think that the grappling here is going to go to Vieira. I think that Vieira is also going to be able to take down Pennington. Pennington has shown an ability to be taken down. She has been taken down in quite a few fights. And Vieira, she's got a 92% takedown defense. So I don't see Pennington taking Vieira down. Still moving. But anyways, I do think Vieira wins this fight. I think in terms of the striking, it probably goes to Vieira. Pennington does look improved, especially in her most recent fight against Aspen Ladd. I mean, her output looked very much improved. Her combinations looked very much improved. Her counters looked very much improved. So, Pennington, I do see I do see why people like her. I don't entirely see why the line's been moving the way it has. You've got Vieira at minus 106 right now, and you've got Pennington at minus 114. So a lot of money's been coming in on Pennington, but I've only been seeing Vieira bets similar to what CT is saying. Everyone's on Ketlen. That's kind of what I'm seeing too, but I'm not one to decide my bets based on what the public is doing. So I am on Vieira. I played her at minus 110 for 1.1 units. She's currently at minus 106. I think that's more than playable. It's a better line than I got. I was going to add to my Vieira spot, but I just feel like this is going to be a close fight. And I feel like that if Vieira isn't on point, Pennington may be able to edge it out using that cage control. I don't think it'll happen. I think Vieira wins, but I don't want to stake more than 1.1 unit on it because of those things. And we're going to move right along. All right. So for this fight, we've got Allan Nascimento versus Carlos Hernandez. Nascimento is 31 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach, and he's training out of Shootbox Diego Lima. Hernandez is 8-1-0, 29 years old. He's 2 years younger, 5'8". They're the same height, 67-inch reach. He's given up 3 inches in reach. And for his camp, I'm going with VFS just because I don't know any better. And look, this is another one where I think the line is very, very much off. Nascimento is going to be the better grappler, without any doubt. That's very clear, right? He out-grappled Jake Hadley, who we saw in his last fight is a good BJJ practitioner. It's just Nascimento was better. And you look at Hernandez, and when he fought Daniel Barros in the Contender Series, he got taken down 5 times. He got his back taken. He got controlled. So I do think that Nascimento has a very clear edge here, a very, very clear edge in terms of the grappling. The question in my eyes is, who's going to have the edge in the striking here? I think it's Hernandez, actually. I think Hernandez is the better striker. I think he's more comfortable at distance. He's shown better use of his jab. He's shown better combinations. And he's shown better work in the pocket. Nascimento uses a lot of kicks. His own jab is pretty good. That'll give him. But in terms of the combos, I just like what Carlos Hernandez is doing better. I like his work on the feet better. The defensive grappling of Nascimento, you look at the stats, right? 16% takedown defense for Nascimento. That is terrible. But you put an asterisk next to it. You see that he fought Tagiro Unbekov. You see that he fought Jake Hadley. You see that he's a guy who will accept bottom position in order to search for those submissions. And you kind of get it. Hernandez, like I mentioned, he can actually wrestle himself. He's got decent trips, not much in terms of ground control. 70% takedown defense, sure, but it's a small sample size. And again, Daniel Barros took him down pretty easy, and he was able to get his back, and he was able to get control. So I do think Nascimento wins this fight. I think he probably wins it by submission, but I'm not going to bet it. I think it's way, 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 way too wide because, if Nascimento cannot get the fight to the ground constantly, I say constantly because I'm convinced he will get it to the ground. But if Nascimento can't keep doing it, if he can't hold Hernandez down, I do think Hernandez is live for an upset. I think it's entirely possible. Hernandez sitting at plus 290 right now. His decision prop on 5 dimes is plus 425. If I get something like that on books that are available to me, I'm going to play it. I will. I think that Nascimento will probably win via that grappling, like I mentioned. But if we're extended, I think Hernandez might find a lot of success on the feet. So the pick is Nascimento by submission. No bet as of now. If I get to anything, it's going to be Carlos Hernandez by decision. But right now, no bets. Like I said, I'll be going live Thursday next week on Twitter Spaces to talk about props. So if I do end up playing anything in terms of props, I will do that. But I am in terms of who I think wins, I'm on Nascimento, and we're going to move on to our next fight. All right. For this one, we've got Jimmy Flick versus Charles Johnson. Flick is 16-5-0. Johnson's 12-3-0. Flick is 32 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. He's training out of Forza Combat Sports. Johnson is 12-3-0, 32 years as well, 5'9". He's 2 inches taller, 70-inch reach, just about the same reach, and he's training out of Redline Fitness, as far as I could tell, for this camp. I like Charles Johnson, but look, the odds already reflect it. It's absolutely unplayable. I would not condone playing Charles Johnson at minus 500. While I think that Charles Johnson is the better fighter, I think that Charles Johnson is the better striker, I think that Jimmy Flick is always dangerous. And at minus 500, it doesn't make sense to me to bet that against a guy like Flick. I do think there's a lot of things going in Johnson's way. First of all, Jimmy Flick hasn't fought in 3 years. Second of all, Jimmy Flick literally retired. Third of all, Jimmy Flick doesn't have much offensive wrestling. He works off of his back, off of his scrambles. Charles Johnson isn't going to look for takedowns. I think that if Flick is going to get a submission, it's going to have to be off of catching a kick from Charles Johnson. And do I think that's a likely outcome? I do not. I don't think that's a likely outcome. So I think that Charles Johnson is probably going to win this by decision. I'm not going to bet this at all. Johnson by decision on 5 dimes is plus 195. If we get a similar line on our books, I will play that because that makes no damn sense to me. Jimmy Flick isn't getting finished all that much. Yeah, he hasn't fought in a minute, but yeah, he has been knocked out 4 times, yes. But I don't really see him getting KO'd here unless maybe he's like exhausted. He hasn't had time to really get back into it from these 3 years off. I think we kind of go to the decision. And if I'm getting that kind of plus money on Charles Johnson by decision, that's probably what I'll play. 6 Hound saying, you think Charles' last name was Nurmagomedov the way this line is? Yeah, I mean, literally the lines are about the same. Prince of Mischief, when Flick went off and called UFC fighters stupid for not forming a union, and now he's back. Dude, he probably ran out of money, bro. Realistically, that's probably what happened. He probably ran out of bread. He retired too soon for an exciting guy. I know a lot of people really like Flick. I like Flick, but for this fight, I do like Charles Johnson. Not going to bet it right now. If Charles Johnson by decision remains at good plus money, that's the bet I'm going to make. All right. For this next one, we've got a fight that I'm really looking forward to. We've got Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. Ige is 15-6-0, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, training out of Extreme Couture. Damon Jackson on the other side is 22-4-1, 34 years old. He's 3 years older, 5'11". He's 4 inches taller. Same reach at 71-inch reach, and I don't know for sure about his camp. I've got him at Fortis MMA, going with Tapology. And this is interesting to me. I think that this line would not be where it's at if not for that last Jackson fight against Pat Sabatini. And while that was impressive, I think that we always have to put an asterisk next to quick finishes because they don't tell you much. Yes, they found that quick finish. Yes, that shows power. But other than that, like, it easily could have gone to that fight. In that fight, he didn't get that finish right away. And then what would have happened? We don't know. But I don't think you can look at that fight and be like, all right, Damon Jackson knocked out Pat Sabatini. He's going to knock out Dan Ige. Pat Sabatini is a grappler. Dan Ige is a striker. Dan Ige is a good striker. And Dan Ige has fought the way, way, way better competition. I mean, it's not even comparable. Excuse me. I want to pull it up for you guys real quick. So, in Damon Jackson's last few UFC fights, he's fought Pat Sabatini, Dan Argueta coming up a weight class, Camuela Kirk, relatively new to the UFC, and Charles Rosa, who's no longer with the promoter. On the other side, on Dan Ige's side, you've got Movsar Evloev, Josh Emmett, Korean Zombie, Gavin Tucker, and Calvin Kattar. I mean, the competition's not even close. And you look at Dan Ige, and I mean, the striking is awesome. He's a great striker. He'll double, triple up on the jab. Good output, good combos, good power, good counters. It's a lot to like from Dan Ige, the way he's mixing targets. He'll go body, head, body, head. Damon Jackson, in terms of the striking, it's hard to know exactly where he's at because he doesn't keep it on the feet for long. He's always shooting. He's always looking for that ground position, and that's what he's always working for. Can he take Dan Ige down? Yeah, I'm sure that he could. Dan Ige has been taken down, but he's fought guys like Movsar Evloev. Evloev, great wrestler. Ige defended 7 of his takedowns. And in my opinion, Evloev is a much better wrestler than Jackson. Jackson has this BJJ that he's going to mix in, which will make things dirty and complicated and chaotic. But overall, I think that Dan Ige will be able to keep this fight on the feet. I think that Dan Ige will be able to find a finish. And I think that Dan Ige should win this fight. Now, will it be a KO or a decision? I'm not positive. I lean KO, but I think that a decision is possible as well. That said, I already have a play on Ige money line minus 120, 1.2 units. The other line I'm looking at that I'm really interested in is the fight doesn't go the distance for this fight, because on 5 dimes right now, that prop is sitting at minus 105. And I think that's stupid. I think that's very stupid. Dan Ige is a finisher. He's shown that. He has very, very good power. And Damon Jackson is also a finisher. For Ige, it's KOs. For Jackson, it's subs for the most part. But both guys have shown an ability to finish. So fight doesn't go at minus 105. If we get a line like that, I'm all over that for sure, without a doubt. But in terms of the side, I'm on Ige. I did play him minus 120, 1.2 units. I think it's a good play. I think Ige is going to win that fight. And we're going to move on to the next one. All right. So here we've got Punali Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. Soriano is 9-2-0, 30 years old. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach, training out of Extreme Couture. Kopylov on the other side, he's 9-2-0 as well. 31 years old. He's 1 year older. 6 feet tall. He's 1 inch taller. 75-inch reach. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And honestly, I like Roman Kopylov here. Soriano's training out of Extreme Couture. Kopylov's over in Dagestan and Azerbaijan, as far as I could tell. And honestly, for me, what really made me want to play Kopylov was his last 2 fights, particularly the last one. I mean, his striking, I already knew he's a good striker. I knew that going into the Duraev fight. But in his last fight against Chirico, his striking looked so good. The 1-2 looked so good. He looked so fast, so crisp. Just overall, looked like a great striker. The downside was he did still look pretty hittable. And Soriano hits like a goddamn train. So can he get knocked out here? Hell yeah. But in terms of technical striking, I give that edge to Kopylov. Now, the wrestling, right? Kopylov's been taken down. He's got a good takedown defense, 87%. Duraev went 1-9. But I think everybody thinks of the Karl Roberson fight. Soriano can wrestle, but he's not going to use it. He doesn't use it often, and it's not always that successful. So I don't really see him finding that much success with the wrestling. I think that if Soriano's to win this fight, he needs to get a knockout, and there's no way I'm going to bet a guy who needs a knockout to win as a favorite. And to add to that, Soriano also lost on the feet to Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is great. I'm super high on him, but the guy's a striker. Soriano's also a striker for the most part, and he got outstruck by Brendan Allen. So I do like Kopylov here. I do think that as long as he doesn't get himself KO'd, he's going to outstrike Punali Soriano. He's going to find those spots, and he's going to win this fight probably by decision. I did play him at plus 147. He's still at that line. I just think that he shouldn't be an underdog. I think that this should be pick'em odds at best. So I like Kopylov. I really like what he has to offer on the feet, and I think that he can win this fight. 6-hound saying Soriano lost around to Dalcho when Lungiambula's corner was yelling at him not to wrestle. Yeah, that was a weird one as well. But yeah, I think that Kopylov, with his striking, if he strikes the way he did in the Chirico fight, I think he's going to dominate here on the feet. So give me Roman Kopylov. Give me him at plus 147. I like it for 1 unit. And we're moving on to our main event of the evening. Unfortunately, we've lost our Shavkat Rakhmonov main event. So now we have this one, but it's honestly not that bad. Yeah, it's weird that Kevin Gastelum is headlining an event considering how many losses he has recently, but I get it. What were they supposed to do? So here we've got Kelvin Gastelum versus Nassourdine Imavov. Gastelum is 17-8-0, 31 years old. He's 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. and I've got him training at a Fight Ready. Imavov on the other side, he's 12-3-0. 26 years old. He's 5 years younger, 6'3". He's going to be, what is that? 6 inches taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's training out of MMA Factory. So originally, before I broke this fight down, I was leaning toward Kelvin Gastelum. And I thought so because he's got this wrestling that he can use. And we have seen Nassourdine Imavov taken down by guys like Edmund Shabazian, of all people. So that's a path for Kelvin. But I do think that Imavov, for the most part, is going to be able to keep it on the feet. 76% takedown defense. Yeah, Hawes was able to find a lot of success on the ground. But I'm just not convinced that Gastelum is going to be able to replicate that. In terms of the striking, I think it's Imavov all day. He's really, really good at controlling the distance, getting in and out, and avoiding strikes while landing his own. Nice front kick, good combos, great jab, nice 1-2, really slick in the pocket. Hawes was able to outstrike him a little bit, but Kelvin is just different. Kelvin is a different kind of fighter. And Kelvin's striking, he's got a good jab himself, good combos, but he's not as clean, and he really focuses on that left hand. I think that if Kelvin can't get Imavov down here often, I think this is Imavov all day, especially now that it's a main event. We're getting 5 rounds. I really do think that Nassourdine Imavov can keep it on the feet, and he can win this fight. A lot of people are pointing towards Imavov's last fight. They're saying, maybe he'll slow down because he did in the Buckley fight. But how about the Hawes fight, where he was losing the entire fight, and then in the third round, he almost finished Hawes? Clearly, the guy's got a gas tank. So I don't think that saying that Imavov doesn't have cardio is a fair argument. I think that the way this fight will probably play out is that we're going to start on the feet. Gastelum's going to try to close the distance. It's not going to find a ton of success. Imavov is going to be working off of the out in range, can be landing, lateral movement. Gastelum is probably going to get a shot or two in. Imavov will get up, and I think Imavov is going to outpoint him for a decision. So I played Nassourdine Imavov at -200 for 2 units. I don't want to bet any more than that because Kelvin is still an elite fighter. I don't think that his losses reflect really how good he is because of the competition. My guy Prince of Mischief saying what happened to Kelvin. He was a prospect, Ultimate Fighter winner, went to war with Izzy, and now he's fallen down so far. Matchups make fights, right? Styles make fights, and Kelvin, unfortunately, has been given some tough matchups. And I really think that's all it comes down to. So give me Nassourdine Imavov in the main event. I bet him money line 2 units. Not going to be anything other than that. And that's it. That's it, guys. That's UFC Vegas 67. I thank each and one of you for coming in and watching me break down the fights. We've got 20 live viewers in the chat, which I think is a record for when I'm solo. So that's super dope. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I'm going to be going live next week on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time with my guy Addicted to Combat, Pat, to break down these fights again. And then that same day at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be going live on a Twitter space for the first time ever with my new co-host, Propaholic. And we're going to talk about props for UFC Vegas 67. And tomorrow, I'm looking to do a video for LFA 150. I already did 149, which is this week. And then 150 is next week. I've already got my fights picked out. I've already got all my notes. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Right now, the time is 9 p.m. is what we're shooting for. But I'll move it around if necessary. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Michael Gamblin saying he's late. It's all right, brother. We're not going nowhere. Videos on YouTube. You're the man. And Happy New Year's to all you guys. And have a good one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.